In today's episode, I'll be giving my review and reaction to the 2000 film Snatch. So let's dive right into Snatch.
Do something, man. People are questioning you. Shut up. Shut up. Okay, yep, do that. Sure, guys. Stupid and dumb. Just an idiot. Get your shit together, son. Fuck it. I loved it. Welcome to the dub cast.
Snatch was released on August 23rd, 2000. The genre is a crime comedy. The runtime is an hour and 42 minutes. The budget is $10 million. The director is Guy Ritchie, who also directed Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and The Gentleman, both of which I've watched and have done reviews for on this channel, so go check those out after if you want to watch those after. So this movie stars Benicio del Toro, Dennis Farina, Jason Fleming, Vinnie Jones, Brad Pitt, Raid Serbedzigia, and Jason Statham. So if you're new to the channel, I always start these movie reviews giving my overarching review, then assign a score, compare that score amongst the other movies I've reviewed so far on the Dubcast, and then get into my thoughts and reactions throughout the film. So starting with my overarching review, I thought this was a pretty fun movie. Having just watched Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels about 2 months ago, I thought this was a very similar movie to it, almost an exact carbon copy. I did think this was a little bit better. Obviously, you have Brad Pitt in this movie, and his role was hilarious, and it was cool to see him be a character that wasn't really the main character of the film, but just also have a funny impact on the movie. Usually when we see Brad Pitt, he's the main character or one of the main characters. He probably is still one of the main characters of this movie, but on a lesser scale. So I think there was definitely a lot going on with this movie, but this felt a little bit easier to follow than Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels at the beginning. That we're kind of just thrown into that world. Here, it's kind of more world building. Like we kind of understand who the characters are, what the motivations are as we get into the movie, rather than just being kind of thrown out there. So I like the concepts here with the fighting ring and boxing promoting and the boxing having to go down with the illustrious diamonds. Well, the boxer having to go down, like them rigging the fights, the illustrious diamonds. So that was all fun to follow that aspect and the concept of that. Thought that flowed pretty well. So it was fun to see Lenny James and Jason Statham in this one as well. Lenny James of Walking Dead fame. Obviously, I know him as Morgan, but seeing him take on this different role was interesting. So that was cool. Obviously, not to mention the ridiculous British accents that everyone uses in this movie. Well, it's not ridiculous because that's just their accent, but that's another funny aspect to it. So Jason Statham, I thought, did a good job narrating the film as well. He's kind of the narrator we keep coming back to, and I just realized that Guy Ritchie movies always can have that narrator. So of course, the Pikey's accent as well was kind of ridiculous, but they were really funny, so that was a funny aspect of it too. The action isn't as ridiculous as I would expect, having just watched The Gentleman and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. It's toned down a little bit. There were some moments of coincidence that, bring out a little bit of that ridiculous action, but it wasn't too much for me to be turned off by that. So I did enjoy the way the movie ended with the twist of the Pikey's revenge. I thought that was really well done and, kind of a surprise. You don't really expect that to be the case, but then they're able to explain that pretty quickly, and that ends the film in a narratively sound way. So I thought that there were some part of the movies that were just not that interesting to me, and even though it was kind of a shorter runtime, I felt like some of that could have been cut out or one storyline not included. On these reviews I've been saying on these movies with multiple storylines, like sometimes we just need to cut one or two out. Like it really feels like this movie could have benefited from maybe cutting one or two pieces out of it, but I get that that's all of the complex layers of the puzzle, and that's how Guy Ritchie likes to do his movies. So yeah, not for me, but just my preference. I'm sure people love it out there. So this movie was definitely funny as at times as well. So overall on this movie, Snatch, I'm giving it a 7.5. Pretty baseline score, pretty fun movie just to watch and throw on for 2 hours. Some decent action. It's good to see Brad Pitt in this role and everything with that. So yeah, 7.5. I wouldn't say this is one of my favorite movies of all time, but if you like Guy Ritchie, this will be right up your alley. This is a pretty good movie. So I'd recommend this to any fans of Brad Pitt, any fans of any of the actors. It's worth it to watch for 2 hours. In my opinion, it was a pretty solid film. So 7.5 here for Snatch. Now let's compare this amongst the other movies we've reviewed so far on the Dubcast. So Snatch comes in at number 23 of 32 movies that we reviewed so far. This beats the similar Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels by 1.5 points. I gave that a 6. I gave this a 7.5. So I thought this was a tier and more above Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. This does score less than Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which I gave a 7.9. That's another Brad Pitt film, so I thought that was slightly better. This loses out to the other Guy Ritchie film that I have not mentioned yet, The Gentleman, by 0.3. Thought The Gentleman was a 7.8. I thought they did more interesting stuff there, and that was more of a compelling storyline than this slightly, so that leaves this at a 7.5, The Gentleman at a 7.8. So that'll wrap up the Dubcast graphic and ranking so far. So now let's get into my thoughts and reactions throughout the film. So starting out the film, we meet Turkish and his partner Tommy, and these two's dynamic throughout the film is very fun to follow along with. You know, they have funny quips back and forth. You have Tommy and the gun, but right away, once you meet them, you know it's going to be a dynamic that's going to play out throughout the movie. And Tommy is the actor for Simon Stagg, I believe his name is, in Peaky Blinders. I couldn't place where I remembered him from, but that's where I remember him from. Obviously, Turkish is Jason Statham. So interesting to see Jason Statham be basically the same role as last movie, and there's another character that has the same role as last movie. It's a lot of similar things falling back and forth in between this and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. So we meet Muti. The first real scene in the movie after the introduction is Muti, who's an Amish man, supposedly, or we're supposed to think, but they're all faking as Amish men. They pull up and they pull out guns out of their jacket in a surprise and rob a diamond stone. And then they give a hype intro to the whole gang with titles and music. I thought this was a really well done intro just to introduce us to all of our characters and, you know, their funny nicknames and little quips that they have. Decent way to do that. And yeah, the scene was pretty surprising because you're like, what is going on with these Amish men and, you know, taking this diamond, but obviously the diamond will play a big factor during the rest of the movie. So we meet Bricktop, who Jason Statham's character Turkish introduces to us. So he is a boxing promoter as well. Turkish's background is in the boxing promotion scene also. And so Bricktop, when he deals with people who do not follow his orders or people who disobey him or you know, do wrong by him, they're sent to be eaten by pigs. So yeah, right off the top, I thought Bricktop seemed like a boss, just like a nice mob boss you got there. That's a respectable, no chill guy, sending people to be eaten by pigs. Like, who'd even think of that? So Bricktop, right away, you know this guy's legit. So a bunch of other stuff happens. We're introduced to Mickey, who is obviously Brad Pitt's character. He barely speaks English. He speaks the Pikey language. He scams them out of a caravan, and now that he got scammed, he has to fight George, who's their bodyguard and also their fighter. Not sure why they brought their prize fighter on the trip to go get this caravan from Mickey, but nonetheless, here we are in this fight between George and Mickey. So Mickey knocks him out in one fell swoop, and Mickey's fight moves during this whole movie is hilarious, where he just like goes like this and just knocks him out. Obviously, he's kind of this like, what am I looking for here? He's not this conventional fighter, you know. He's built in the Pikey land where they kind of do things differently. So the way he just knocks people out is kind of confusing, but also really respectable and just straight up funny. So once this happens, they realize that they're going to need a new fighter because George was their prize fighter. But hold on that thought, because we go back to Saul, who is Lenny James's character. So he is tasked with holding up the bookies. And yeah, this is where I started to, you know, lose it a little bit. Like, I feel like we were switching storylines way too often. But like I mentioned before, that's just how these Guy Ritchie movies seem to be. So then once Saul is tasked with holding up the bookies, he's got to make sure everything goes well with them. We cut back to George and Turkish's storyline. So George needs to be subbed out. So now they go to Mickey to replace him. Obviously, well, not obviously, but Turkish's fighters usually go down in order for Bricktop's bettors to win money. And in his promotion, you know, he needs things to go the right way so he can re-money and scam the fuck out of people. So now we are getting Mickey instead of George. Mickey's been given the little rundown. He needs to go down in the 4th round. So once Turkish now brings this back to Bricktop that they're making a replacement, he is not happy with this. He tells Turkish that Mickey needs to go down in the 4th round or else. Kind of an empty threat because, spoiler alert, he will not go down in the 4th round. And, you know, Turkish does a lot of talking about how Bricktop, he doesn't want to mess with him. You know, you can't really screw with him or else you're done for, and you don't want to be on his bad side, which he does, and then it's just fine. So, empty threat, Bricktop, not as scary as initially thought, but we'll talk about that scene in a bit. So we have Soul going through with the robbery of holding up the bookies. So he has his kind of henchmen. He has Tyrone, who's this larger gentleman, is also their driver. He's a funny character to see because he is the driver, but he just backs completely into another car. And it's just a goof the whole movie. And then the other character he's with, I'm not sure his name, but their dynamic, the three of them together, is super funny because they're kind of these like amateur gangsters basically. And seeing them try and go and do stuff together was one of the funnier parts of the movie for sure. So while they're going through this robbery, they misread the situation. They were supposed to wait for the four-fingered man. Another man went in, not the four-fingered man, and so they just completely held the place up at the wrong time. But they do see the four-fingered man. Tyrone gets him, and the briefcase is attached to his hand. He had a handcuff, like one of those handcuff pull things, to the briefcase. So they have to take him captive instead of just cutting his arm off. I mean, I guess I don't know what you do in that situation. So they take him captive. Now they have the diamond in the briefcase attached to this guy's hand. They have the guy captive. So back to the fighting world, we have Mickey in his first appearance against this big guy. Looks like he's pretty outmatched just based off size, but of course he's going to knock his opponent out instantly. And yeah, this is much to Bricktop's disapproval and disappointment. You know, he was supposed to go down in the fourth round. That was how he's going to get all the money for his opponent or for his betting people. But Mickey's upset. You know, Mickey was probably like plus 1,000 in this. Round betting specifically, you know, you need to do something. I don't know how the old bookies worked, but that seems like him picking a knockout in the fourth round would be make you a lot of dough. Essentially with the odds. But now that this has not happened, his Bricktop circle is losing money. Now Bricktop is pissed off. Mickey has the underdog money. He was probably had very high odds. So essentially this is just going to piss off Bricktop, but not enough for him to do really much about it. Just offer the same deal the next time, but we'll talk about that in a second. So we have Boris, who's this Russian character. He's kind of this middleman who's also trying to get the diamond. I think he's the one who actually paid Soul and them to hold up the place. So once he sees that there's a captive with the briefcase, he just shoots the case holder. This is a problem because the guy who had the briefcase attached to his hand was the only one who knew the combination of the briefcase to get the diamond inside. So now Boris, just being this kind of rush into it character, has just caused a problem because now that they don't have the guy's combination, they can't open the briefcase. So that problem will have to wait. We're back with Bricktop and Turkish. So Turkish is going back to his place, and who's there waiting for him but Bricktop. Now, this time he wants Mickey to take a dive in the fourth round for sure this time, or else. I should mention that there aren't really the empty threats I said by Bricktop are not true because there are scenes later on that do indicate that he will provide a threat. But not really to Turkish. So this time, for sure, Mickey needs to go down to the fourth or else. So Turkish has to bet with Mickey in order to get him to fight again. And while all this is happening, Bricktop and his gang is also looking for the diamond, so they find Tyrone on the street and are able to take him captive. And, you know, Turkish is going to have to inspire Mickey to fight again. He cashed out that first fight, you know, doesn't need to do any more, but now they need to make a bet on a caravan in order for him to actually fight again. And while all this is happening, Tyrone is taken captive. Obviously, Tyrone knows where the diamond is, who has it. So all the storylines are somewhat integrating here. So we have Bricktop. He visits Soul's shop, Soul's pawn shop, and tells them about how his pigs consume the bodies of dead men. He threatens them to get the stone. Obviously, they don't know where the stone is because Boris has it, but they just had it in their possession, so they need to go track down Boris for Bricktop. Really interesting facts given by Bricktop about the pigs being able to consume people down to the bone, and you know, if you feed them whatever, they'll get rid of bodies in however long. I don't know if that's true at all. I forgot to look into it, but that seems like that shouldn't be in a movie if it is true, so it's got to be not true, right? I don't know. But obviously, Soul is very threatened by this, and they're kind of the goofy, like amateur characters, so they're just intimidated immediately by a threat like this. So once we have that, they need to go get the stone. We have Tony, who is the same character who played Chris in not the same character, same actor who played Chris in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. He has the exact same role in this movie. He's an enforcer. He's the one who gets things done, figures out where things are, and just cashes out on his payday. He just does his job and goes home. So he is going to harass Mullet by putting his head in the window and then closing it and driving down the street, asking for details about the stone. Obviously, everyone's after this diamond stone, would make whoever has it rich. So we have Bricktop is now going to make Turkish pay for his arcade, or not pay for his arcade, pay for what he's done with not having Mickey go down. He smashes his arcade machine games. And then the most fucked up part of the movie, he just burns the caravan with Mickey's mom inside of it. She's dead. Very tough scene to watch Mickey just on his knees bawling. This, I think Bricktop thought he'd go unchallenged due to, the Pikeys are kind of this lower class society on the outskirts of town. There's not really going to be any repercussions. Bricktop probably thinks they kind of own the Pikeys. Little does he know. But pretty sad scene and kind of not out of nowhere, but we got the impression that Bricktop really wasn't gonna go through with his threats, especially since the first fight happened and nothing really happened to Turkish or Mickey. But obviously, this is the huge consequences that have paid out, and now he really needs to go down in the fourth round. I don't even know what else can happen, but I was like, wow, that's fucked up. So we finally have all of our stories co-aligning, getting on the same timeline. We have the parties all converging on Boris's house. He has the diamonds. So we have Boris, who's in the back of the car with Tony and Avi, because they were able to get there first. So Tommy and Turkish are also on their way there, but Tommy throws Turkish's milk into the car with Tony and Avi, and they crash. So Boris gets out of the car, but is then ran over by Saul and his boys, because they're on the same way over there as well. So really just that coincidence all happening at the same time. That's what we've been building up for. 3 different storylines all coinciding here at this one scene. So obviously chaos is going to ensue with a car crash and the diamond in play. So Soul and his gang come to harass Tony. Tony grills them because they have fake guns and he has a real one, which turns them to run away. They are making their way out of the place they're in with a case. But they run into Ari, who's this character who's been kind of the lead man of Tony for sure, and he's been trying to get his diamond. He flew all the way in from New York. But Boris has a machine gun aimed at Avi as well, while Avi has while the Soul and his gang have the case, Avi's pointing a gun at them. Boris has a machine gun aimed at Avi. So it's a massive shootout. Boris is dead. Tyrone is spared, as Tony does not have enough bullets to put him out. So really just Boris dies. Everyone kind of makes it out the same, but they need to get the diamond. Who has the diamond? We'll see. I think it's Saul still in his gang. So back to the fighting ring. Mickey gets drunk before the fight at his mother's wake. He just gets completely hammered. Who knows what'll happen, if that's good or bad. You'd assume bad, but with Mickey, he lives a different alternate lifestyle. Anything could happen. So we have Tony, Avi, and Soul need to open up the dog, because in this confrontation they all are in the same room again, and the dog, who is kind of funny change of breath character. The dog has been in it since the beginning with the Soul and his gang, and that other character that I forget the name of, or we didn't even know his name. He ate a squishy toy and squeaks now every time they pet him. Now he's accidentally ate the diamond through things just occurring the way they did. The case breaks open, the diamond's on the ground. Of course, he goes to bite it. So they need to open him up to find the diamond. It was not actually in the case, or not actually in the dog's belly. Avi has it and is taking a look at it, inspecting it with his diamond checker. But of course, the dog runs off with it. And while all this is happening, Avi tries to shoot the dog to get the diamond back, but through all the ruckus, accidentally shoots Tony. And now Tony is passing away. Like, chaos just ensues, as a classic end of Guy Ritchie film does. So meanwhile, we are still waiting in this next fight for Mickey. Here we go. Instantly, he gets knocked down, then gets up. Or he gets an instant knockdown, then slows up a little bit. Obviously, he needs to get knocked down in the fourth after all this tough messaging. He can't do nothing, or they'll think it's rigged. He's got to hurt him. So it's like kind of conflict. I mean, that's got to be a very hard role when you're supposed to lose a fight, but you can't do anything to like pretend like you're in it. You know, like if you hit too hard, you can knock somebody out, but if you don't hit it hard enough, then it looks like you're rigging it. So it's like really a tough back and forth. He gets a huge uppercut from this guy, also bigger than him. It sends him into a vision into the ocean. He falls back into a abyss of an ocean. That was one of the cooler scenes. And now he has a vision. He wakes up and knocks his opponent out. Not supposed to happen. Now all chaos is ensuing. They need to hustle out of there. Obviously, he was not supposed to win that fight. A lot of people just lost money on that fight. They should be getting shot, but nope. We get the flashback scenes. The Pikeys were cooking up something mean for Bricktop and his gang. It was all spearheaded by Mickey. Once they knew that, or once they had the situation happen with Mickey's mother and that caravan disappearing, it's time for chaos to ensue, and they started cooking up a plan. So they all had Bricktop had people waiting outside of Mickey's camp. They were all shot by the Pikey people. Bricktop is executed outside of his car. He had money on himself. Mickey did, so now he just cashed out by having placed a bet on himself, which I don't know how that was possible. Hopefully, he had a front man, or else all realism is out at the window. Tommy and Turkish make their way to Mickey's camp, where they're confronted by the police. They said they're walking their dog, which of course is now holding the diamond. So they have the dog and the diamond. Now we cut back to the opening scene of Tommy and Turkish at the beginning of the movie when we're getting introduced to them. It's the same conversation. They're sitting down with the diamond and the dog, and they sell the diamond to Avi and Doug, who's this owner of a diamond shop who's not really important. So yeah, that was it. That was Snatch. Pretty solid film. Kind of the two storylines playing out separately, but then coinciding at the end. Classic Guy Ritchie movie within those two storylines, like three different parties being involved. But it was pretty good. It was pretty solid. I'd recommend this movie to people to just watch for a fun hour and 45-minute watch. It wasn't too boring or anything. No, I wasn't like whatever. Thought it was good. So what were your guys' opinions on Snatch? Am I too high? Am I too low on it? What would you rate it? If you like this content, we'll have more movie reviews in the future. Can't say right now what those will be, but weekly Survivor we're doing and weekly NFL streams. You know the deal. Always posting Dubcast content. By the time this video comes out, we could be near episode 100. I'm not sure what I could even do. That would be fun for episode 100, but we'll be there. So, as always, be easy.